David said, "My life was recorded in your book before one of them came to be." Today, we retell our stories, which is God's story. And now, here is God's story.
Growing up as a child, I always thought God was this big man in the skies, far away in heaven, and he's always angry when people make mistakes, and he just want to bring judgment on earth. Um, and even our surroundings didn't make it easy because there's always judgment, people just judging you for who you are. And yeah, that was my first impression of God. But throughout my life and just growing into who God is and what God has called me to do and called me to be, just a fresh identity and fresh perspective of who God is, that He's loving. And throughout the Old Testament, I see a God who just want to bring people close to Him, and He's always in the scene, just crying out for the children of Israel to experience His love. So when we see in the Bible in John, where it says, "God so loved the world that He gave His only begotten Son, that whoever believes in Him will not perish but have everlasting life." It just brings so much hope, so much perspective of who God is, that He is a God of love. He is actually the love that flows through us, flows through you and I, and He just want to be close to His children, and He just want to pour love on them, and we just want to see the best out of them. So that's my impression of God now, compared to how I used to see God.
Growing up in a Christian family, I would say God was in everything we did as a family. He was in church, He was in the house. In Sunday school, we studied a lot about God. So I wouldn't say I had much context to what God actually means. But what I found out is as I've grown and I've matured in life, I have come to really have a personal relationship with God. I see Him as the Father who guides me, who leads me, who is there for me anytime I need a voice to guide me in my thought processing. Father has changed how I view the world around me. He's given me a new identity so that I see myself as His child. So I will say that having God in my life has really molded the way I view life, or I'll say my outlook of life, because I see the world in the lens of the Father. I see people the way the Father sees them, and I relate to people how the Father wants me to relate to His children. So God means everything to me. He's my Father, He's my friend, He's my healer, He's there for me, He's my guide, and He basically just defines what Catherine Nortey is, or who Catherine Nortey is. That is what God means to me.
So this is kind of a very tricky question, but I think there's two ways I can see this. Unanswered prayers could be prayers that when you pray, God's because of God's will, they will not be answered. And another way I can see this is there are prayers that God will say, "I'm not answering them now, but I will answer them in the future." But because we are not in the space of God, and we're not in the mind of God, we are not able to discern or know that these prayers are being held back and will be answered in the future. And we as people, we see them as unanswered. So for me personally, this is how I deal with it. I continue to press in and continue to hear the heart of God for me. And I always say that I know that my Father loves me and He wants the best for me. So if He holds on to a prayer that I've prayed that He hasn't answered, I just take it as He want the best for me and He have my best interest in heart. And I'll just keep pressing and keep praying and just letting His will be done in my life. So that's how I always deal with unanswered prayers.
God speaks to me in different ways, whether it is when I'm spending an alone time with Him and I'm praying, or when I open the scriptures, He just comes alive to me. He will highlight a particular passage or a phrase, and that will speak to the moment that I am in. So that is the regular way that God usually speaks to me. But one interesting way that has just come up recently is that he's been showing me double numbers. So it started just, I think, probably a couple of years ago. I found out that I was just seeing double numbers consistently around me. So then I started making notes of it, and just over the course of this few months or whatever, I'll say a year now, I have compiled a list of Bible verses that are related to these double numbers. So anytime that it pops up, it could be on the screen, it could be on my phone, it could be just on the wall somewhere. I just seem to be drawn to double numbers. So anytime these numbers pop up, I just refer to the Bible verse that is related to it, and then I just pick that passage over my life. So that has been an interesting journey, even for my family. I found my children say, "Oh, mommy, we found this double number," and then we refer to the Bible passages that we've got. So that's one way that key way that God has been speaking to me.
So a few years ago, when I used to work in a warehouse, and whilst I was working in the warehouse, I was doing my master's degree alongside. And when I finished my master's degree, I was just thinking, also, what's my next steps? And I got a job with a company, and I was working as a in a project manager's office. They call them PMOs. And I really love this job. And in my head, I thought this was going to be an amazing job, and I would do it for the rest of my life. But I got to a point where I wasn't, they didn't like me on the job, and it led to me being sacked from the job, and that was my first time being sacked from a job, and this really broke me, and I was really in a lot of pain. I was just thinking, God, why would you let me complete my masters, and this opportunity just slipped through my fingers, and I was really hurt. I was really upset, but I didn't know what was behind all that. But at the end, I went through a season of just seeking God and hearing from Him. And in a space of 3 months with no job, it was really difficult as a man who provides for his family. It was the most difficult job, difficult moment in my life. But it was just a grace of God that helped me. And my wife Cathy was very supportive and continued to pray for me, continued to encourage me to press in and seek God for a breakthrough. So I saw a job advertised by a bank that currently I work for, and I went through all the assessment process, and it was a very rigorous process of selection, but at the end, God was faithful. I went through all this process, and I was called. I've got a job, and I'm like, there's no way that I could work for such a financial company. That I've not been in the financial industry before, and I'm like looking at my background and where I come from. There's no way that I could be able to work in a company like this, and it's just been God. And I'll say as a testament that I've been working for this company for the past 10 years. And this is the longest that I've worked for a company. Usually I work for a couple of years and I move on. But it's only God that has placed me in this space. And I'm very grateful.
A life-defining moment for me, that is attributable to God, that only God made possible, was when I had to sit my master's degree. So I got a word from God at that time that I will do my master's and I wouldn't pay anything for it. Which, when that message came, it just felt like a near impossibility, because my husband had undertaken his master's and it cost a fortune. But I took on God's word, and throughout the session of courses and universities, God managed to bring my way this master's degree that was like the perfect fit for my background. And He was true to His word. I got scholarship that covered the full tuition. It went further on to cover my living expenses. So I literally sat through this master's degree. I did not pay anything for it. God was faithful. Even when I submitted the application form, we had a call from the university, from one of the tutors, that I had made an error with the application and I needed to change it so that they can guarantee the scholarship for me. He didn't have to do it because he did not even know me, but then that was God moving and making everything possible for me. Even when I sat through my master's degree as well, he was right there with me, guiding me with my studies and in my exams. So God was really significant throughout my master's degree. He was true to his word. It didn't cost me anything, and his presence was always there with me through it all.
Yeah, faith is very important to me because our Father speaks to us, and when He speaks to me, I have to receive as a child. And the Bible says that we can only enter into the kingdom when we are childlike. And when He speaks things to me, I have to receive it from a childlike place, or else I'll not see the manifestation. Because things in the supernatural is not logical, it will never make sense. So in a place, I stand in a place of being a child and I receive whatever is being said to me. The Bible says that without faith it's impossible to please Him. And he that comes to God might believe that He is the rewarder of those who seek Him. So when I'm seeking God, I have to believe that He will reward me, He will provide for me, He will say what He says He will do. I have to believe that He is a God who answers my prayers. He's a God who hears me. He's a God who is near. He's a God who heals me. So faith is, I would say, it is the most important thing or most important element in my life. And that's what connects me to the supernatural. Because everything that I have achieved in life, it was because I depended on faith in God. And faith is a free gift from God. I didn't have to work for it. He just gives it to me, and I know He can give it to you as well. So that's why I say faith is the ultimate thing in my life.
So my why for my faith is that I have walked through brokenness and hurt and insecurity, self-doubt, unforgiveness. And when I encountered the Father, He changed me. He cleaned me up with the blood of His Son, Jesus. He gave me a new identity. He gave me a new trust and belief in the world around me. He opened my eyes to see people differently, to see everyone as His child, His beloved. He defined how I perceive everything that is going on in the world. So instead of feeding into negativity, I intend to bring hope, trust, and faith and goodness into the world. Because of my faith, I have got so much light in me that is shining, that is able to drive out darkness and bring out the good out of people. My faith has allowed me to be able to see the good in the people around me so that I don't put people down. I encourage people and I lift people up. My faith has helped me to be able to go after my dreams and not shrink back and live in fear and insecurity and doubt. This is why I hold on to my faith. Because of my faith, I know I can do anything that Father puts in my way. I can do anything that Father wants me to do because He is there with me. He is there to lead me. He is there to guide me. So this is the why for my faith.
My name is Ebenezer Nortey.
My name is Catherine Nortey.
And this is my story.
God's story.